Welcome to the meeting of the State of Hawaii Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity. I am the chair, Sharon Hurd. Prior to calling the meeting to order, Jason will explain how the public can participate in this hybrid meeting, which can be accessed by video conference, telephone, or in person.
As an attendee, your microphone will be automatically muted during the meeting, unless you are providing testimony. For each agenda item you wish to testify on, please click the Raise Hand button found on your Zoom screen. Board staff will individually enable each testifier to unmute their microphone. When recognized by the chair, please unmute your microphone before speaking and mute your microphone after you finish speaking in order to prevent audio feedback. When testifying, you will be asked to identify yourself and the organization, if any, that you represent. Each testifier will be limited to 2 minutes of testimony per agenda item. If you are dialing in by phone, when the chairperson asks for public testimony, you may indicate you want to testify by entering star and then 9 on your phone's keypad. After entering star and then 9, a voice prompt will let you know that the host of the meeting has been notified. When recognized by the chairperson, you may unmute yourself by pressing star and then 6 on your phone. A voice prompt will let you know that you are unmuted. Once you are finished speaking, please enter star and then 6 again to mute yourself. Thank you.
We request that each testifier limit their testimony to 2 minutes per agenda item. If there is anyone testifying in the room, please be sure to come up to the mic and identify yourself before you begin. Calling the meeting to order at 9:03. Roll call vote. I will be taking a roll call vote of the board members that are present. When your name is called, please indicate your presence with a here or present and state who, if anyone over the age of 18, is present in the room with you. This also serves as a roll call vote. For each subsequent vote, I will ask if there are any objections or recusals. If there are none, then the motion will be approved on the same basis as this initial roll call. Sharon Hurd is here. Deputy Director Ryan Kanakaole, DLNR.
Present and alone.
Thank you. Dr. Parvinder Grewal, Dean C.F.R.
Present and alone.
Thank you. Mark Takimoto, representing DBET.
Present and alone.
Mark Dinley, Hawaii member.
Present and alone.
You, Nate Oswald is excused today. N. Young, member at large. Oh, N. Young is excused now. James Gomes, member at large.
Present and alone. And one thing, Mark, your heading is under Dane Wicker.
No.
Under your, doesn't have your name.
Can
Thank you,
IT change? I don't think I can change that.
Yeah, okay.
Well, we can call you Dane, no problem.
Thank you, Jimmy. Eagle Eye Goals.
Yes.
And we do have quorum, so we'll be proceeding. With the approval of the minutes for the September 23rd, 2025 meeting, may I have a motion to approve the minutes?
So moved, Diane.
Thank you, Diane. And second.
Second, Ryan.
Thank you, Deputy Director. It has been moved and seconded to review the minutes. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
No answers.
No hands? Or discussion? Hearing none, seeing none. Are there any objections or recusals? None? Do I take a roll call? No, the first one, okay, the motion, hearing none, seeing none, the motion is approved. Moving on to item 3, which we've done. Item 4, communications from divisions and administration. Item 4A1 is the request for approval of one Class C aquacultural loan for co-borrowers, Kohala Mountain Fish Company, LLC, Matthew Anderson, Robert Anderson, and the Revocable Trust of Margaret Kihei Hazelwood. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So move, Jimmy.
Jimmy, thank you. Second,
Second.
thank you, Dean. And presentation by staff.
Good morning, I'm Jillian Scheibe with the Agricultural Loan Division. Right off the top, I'd like to point out that the agenda has this listed incorrectly, and so I need to point out that it should be request for approval of one Class C aquaculture loan for co-borrowers Kohala Mountain Fish Company, LLC, Matthew Anderson, and Margaret Kidgey Hazelwood. There would be not. So the corrections are removing Robert Anderson and the trust. Still the humans, though.
One moment.
Well, this was the middle one on the big one. Yeah, let me just.
Okay, moving forward with the presentation. Go ahead, Julie.
Thank you. So I will be presenting the direct Class C aquaculture loan for co-borrowers Kohala Mountain Fish Company, LLC, Matt Anderson, and Margaret Hazelwood, whose operation specializes in tilapia and aquaponic lettuces. The 6.5 acre fee simple aquaculture farm is off of Hoea Road on the north side of Hawaii Island. Kohala Mountain Fish Company was organized in 2016, where Robert Anderson managed it until it was transferred to him fully in 2022. Then Robert Anderson's son, Matthew Anderson, took over as the president in 2023 when the operation was moved from its old site at the Kohala Institute to its new site at Miss Hazelwood's Hoea parcel. Miss Hazelwood is the secretary for Kohala Mountain Fish Company. The request is for a Class C direct corporation loan is in the amount of $500,000, which will allow the applicants to complete the processing and packing facility, finish the greenhouses and tanks, drill a well, move the tilapia and remaining materials, and includes funds for working capital. The term is set for 20 years with a 5% per annum rate, resulting in a monthly principal and interest payment of $3,300 until maturity. The proposed obligation is secured with a second position accommodation mortgage on the Hoea property, which is owned by the revocable trust of Margaret Kidgey Hazelwood. That has a county assessed value of $964,800. The debt is further secured by a junior financing statement and a security agreement on all crops, accounts, inventory, equipment, tools, and aquaculture supplies. First position on that is held by FSA. Guarantors include Robert Anderson and the revocable trust of Miss Margaret Kidgey Hazelwood agreement signed on July 27th, 2021. The new site was once a mature orchard and has been excavated and terraced to put in the greenhouses, tanks, and processing facilities that are needed for KMFC, Currently, there's a complete system that includes 3 30,000-gallon fish tanks, 1 greenhouse for lettuce, and the hatchery. The second site up top includes 3 more greenhouses and 6 more tanks being completed. In the center of the property, there's a slab and framing put up for the processing facility. There are 2 parts to this project. The first is the build, move, and permitting process, which is estimated to take 4 months, though seeding will begin sooner than 4 months to match the production timeline. Revenue generation, which is phase 2, will begin in the 4th month through lettuce sales, and then fish sales will be closer to the 6-month timeline. The proposed loan will allow the applicants to further meet their business goals in a timely fashion. Staff recommends approval of loan based on the management experience, projected timeline, a cash flow projection, and the strength of the collateral. Loan is conditional on a contracted monthly bookkeeping and accounting service. Further disbursements will be based on the agreed upon projection and building timeline.
Thank you, Jillian. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
No hands raised, Chair.
No hands raised. Board discussion. Hearing no discussion, no hands. Any objections or recusals? Seeing none, hearing none, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item B1, Agricultural Resource Management Division. Request for approval for the transfer of public lands from the Department of Land and Natural Resources to the Department of Agriculture Biosecurity pursuant to Act 90 SLH 2003. codified as chapter 166E, Hawaii Revised Statute. TMK numbers 34-1-004, 00033, and 4-2-007-002, Island of Hawaii. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So
So
moved,
moved,
Diane.
Jimmy.
Diane
I'll second.
and Jimmy was the second. Thank you, both of you, and presentation by staff. Hey, Brandy.
Good morning. Good morning, Chair, members of the board. I'm Brandy Ayo, Property Manager with the Arm Division on the Big Island. Act 90 Sessions Laws of Hawaii 2003 established the Non-Agricultural Parklands Program within the Hawaii Department of Agriculture, now known as the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, and was codified as Chapter 166E HRS. Under this program, the legislature found that certain public lands classified for agricultural use by the Department of Land and Natural Resources should be transferred to the DAB for purposes and in a manner consistent with the Hawaii State Constitution. The purpose of this chapter is to ensure the long-term productive use of public lands leased or available to be leased by the DLNR for agricultural purposes by allowing these lands to be transferred to the DAB for leasing and management. In accordance with the provisions of the Act 90, 2003, the Board of Agriculture, now known as the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity, must mutually approve of the selected encumbrances for transfer. Staff verified a compliance of one encumbrance for approval by the board as listed in the attached Exhibit A. Staff reviewed the list of proposed encumbrances and performed its due diligence and recommends recommends that the board approve the transfer of the one encumbrance as listed above. Thank you.
Thank you. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
No patch.
And board discussion? Calling on Jimmy?
Yes, I'd like to commend on both departments, DLNR and Department of Ag and Biosecurity, for making this happen. This has been a long time in the waiting. Thank you very much appreciated.
Thank you for that comment, Jimmy, and Diane Lake.
Thank you, Chair. I just have a question just for clarification. So this is the former Big Island dairy lands that are located in Pauilo?
No, it
No.
is near to it, but it's not, that's not the particular property, no.
Okay, but was that part of that same
Not that I'm
lease?
aware of, no,
Okay.
it's a separate
Okay.
lease.
Okay, thank you. I just, yeah, we don't very often see use dairy, so thank you.
Thank you very much. Noting that board member Enya joined at 9:14. Good morning, Ann. Okay, any other comment from the board? Hearing, seeing no hands. Calling for the vote. Are there any objections or recusals? Hearing, seeing none. The motion is passed unanimously approved. Thank you. Moving on to item B2. Request for approval to cancel general lease S-4805 Wade M. Okamoto lessee and issue the cancellation document and redispose of the parcel to the public by negotiation. TMK 315116041 Lot 14, Pahoa Agricultural Park Phase 2, Keo Nepoko Iki Puna, Island of Hawaii, Hawaii. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So moved, Diane.
Second, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. Presentation by Stan.
In 1983, General Lease S-4805 was awarded by the Board of Land and Natural Resources to Wade M. Okamoto. The subject property was transferred to the Department of Agriculture, now known as the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, by Governor's Executive Order 3380 dated February 26, 1988. The lessee developed the subject property with the cultivation of anthuriums, orchids, and green foliage. Mr. Okamoto fell ill several years ago and passed away in 2022. Since falling ill, the agricultural activity on the property continuously decreased and the lessee fell behind on annual lease rents and real property taxes. Numerous certified mail letters were mailed to the lessee in attempts to cure the cited defaults and bring the property back into compliance with the terms of the lease. In addition, staff had several conversations with the lessee's family members regarding the defaults and provided available options for assigning the lease. Unfortunately, all efforts to cure the said defaults have been exhausted and all attempts to assign the lease were unsuccessful. To date, no one has come forward as being authorized by the appropriate courts as a personal representative for Mr. Okamoto's estate to legally act on his behalf. After reviewing the Hawaii State Judiciary website, no probate matters were opened. As of this date, there is no farming activity occurring on the leased property or premises, excuse me. There are also unpaid delinquent real estate property taxes and past due annual lease balance in the amount of $4,399.67. In accordance with the HAR, in the event of the absence or cessation of any devised request for interstate succession, the leasehold interest and all improvements thereon shall be surrendered to the board, free and clear of any claims or encumbrances. Staff recommends that the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity approve the cancellation of General Lease 4805 and terminate all right, title, and interest granted to the lessee therein, effective as of the date of the approval of the submittal. Authorize issuance of lease cancellation documents to be executed by the chairperson and recorded at the Bureau of Conveyances. Authorize staff to prepare the TMK for disposition to the public by negotiation pursuant to the HAR and approve the request to refer General Lease 4805 as delinquent accounts to the Office of the Attorney General for review and disposition in accordance with the HRS. Thank you.
Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
Okay.
No hands. And board discussion. Diane.
Thank you, Chair. Brandy, what liability does the state hold with respect to the real property tax, or will that be tacked on to the new lessees?
Technically, it'll stay attached to the property. Sometimes new lessees come on board and they can go to the real property tax office and get that waived, but I believe there is a process to get that approved. So there is no liability to the state though.
Does the state, and maybe this is a question for the AG, does the state have any, I mean, does the department or the board have any authority to pay those back taxes? Because my concern is that balance due of $4,400 basically is a lot to ask of a new lessee when we have really a big challenge in trying to locate new lessees in Keonepoko Ag Park.
I just want to make a correction though to your statement. The $4,400 is what's owed to the Department of Ag for past due annual lease rents.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
I don't have the
sorry,
figure. I
Mr.
didn't put the figure down for the real property taxes.
Okay. Well, I guess then still my question stands, rather than putting it on a new lessee to come up with the balance on real property tax, is that something the department can absorb? If we have the authority to do that?
I think we should wait on that just because that's not on the agenda. And then maybe you could talk to your counsel as to, that's also gonna be a policy call, right? I don't know.
It's a good question, Diane.
Is it also, let's say, I would guess, as with anything, you could do anything. But then the question is gonna be, should you? And I think we should run that by counsel.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, well, that's fine. I guess I just, I mean, if it's possible, I mean, my concern is that we really, it's a struggle to find people who want those parcels out there. It's basically, lava rock. It does have county water infrastructure and paved roads, which is great, but it's still, they're lava rock lots and they've been threatened in the past with lava flows. So, and the community knows that. So the ag community. So that's my only concern. Okay, thanks. I'll let it go at that.
But you were saying that there is a mechanism to potentially have it waived.
Yes, we've
Yeah,
had that.
so I mean, I don't know if the board would want to waive it, to pay it. If there's a mechanism to have the next lessee have it waived by the Bureau of Conveyance, so that's something to weigh into.
Brandy, would you mind following up with the board on that?
Sure.
I think Diane's interested in and the board's interested in the amount of the tax and process to waive if it's burdensome.
Okay,
And thank you for that.
sure.
Okay. Any other board discussion? Seeing none, hearing none, we're going to ask for any objections or recusals. Otherwise, the motion is approved unanimously. Thank you. Moving on to item B3. Request to approve rental offset general lease number S-4754A, Huye Sun, lessee, TMK 322056033, Hanaeva Agricultural Park, Island of Hawaii, Hawaii. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So move, Jimmy.
Jimmy, and I see Diane's going to second.
Second.
Thank you, Diane and Jimmy. Presentation by staff.
Okay, general lease 4754A was awarded to Fuye Soon effective January 1st, 2024. The lessee submitted expense receipts for equipment and services rendered for the clearing of the subject parcel in preparation for the planting of his crops, longan and lychee. The lessee is requesting a rental offset of up to 2 years of the annual lease rents of $17,020. Total expenses for the land clearing were $44,500, exceeding the allowable offset. Pursuant to the HAR and General Lease 4754A, the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity may permit the lessee to offset the cost of land clearance and improvements against not more than 2 years of annual base rent. Staff recommends that the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity approve the lessee's request for a rental offset of up to 2 years of base annual lease rent in accordance with the terms and conditions of the lease S-4754 and the HAR. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandy. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
No,
No hands. Board discussion. No discussion. Any recusals? Any objections or recusals? Hearing, seeing none. The motion is approved unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Brenda. Moving on to item 4. Item 4 is both parts. Approval for Department of Land and Natural Resources, US Energy America LLC, to subdivide TMK 9-1-031-001, including general lease S-3138, Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC lessee, into 2 parcels consisting of 9.385 and 100.721 acres. Approval of modification of general lease S-3138, Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC, lessee, contingent upon subdivision of TMK 9-1-031-001, reflecting a reduction in rent from $18,300 per year to $1,600 per year, and the correction of the lease expiration date from December 31, 2055 to December 31, 2054. Delegation to the chairperson to negotiate and execute lease modification documents to be recorded at the Bureau of Conveyances, contingent upon completion of all of the above, and concurrence with partial withdrawal from the Governor's Executive Order 4584, dated May 15, 2019, of approximately 100.721 acres, more or less, for a reversion to the Department of Land and Natural Resources, contingent upon completion of 1, the subdivision of TMK 9-1-031-001, and 2, the modification of general lease S-3138, Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC, lessee, Honolulu, Eva, Oahu, Hawaii. May I have a motion to approve the request?
So move, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. And a second?
Second, Ryan.
Brian, thank you for the second. Presentation by staff.
Good morning, Chair, board members. Kevin Moore, I'm the Agricultural Land Program Manager at ARM Division. I apologize for the long title. This matter involves 110 acres of industrial zone land in the urban land use district at Campbell Industrial Park that's leased to Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC, which I'll call HL&L. And the land is under an executive order to the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity, who leases it to HL&L. HL&L originally wanted to lease this land because of the 800 gallon per acre per day water allocation it had, and it would use that water to support the slaughterhouse operations on an adjacent parcel leases from DAB. When the Board of Land and Natural Resources set the land aside to DAB in 2019, it reserved to BLNR the right to issue leases for renewable energy projects to the extent such leases would not unreasonably interfere with DAB's use of the land. At its meeting of June 24, 2025, the Board of Agriculture approved the deregistration of the 110 acres from land court to facilitate a future subdivision of land for a renewable energy project. At its meeting of August 26, 2025, the board approved a change in owner member of HL&L that removed Robert Farias and added Jeff Rivera. Today, we return to the board for approval to proceed with the next steps, which include approve the subdivision of the 110 acres into two parcels, one with an area of 9.385 acres for HL&L's use, and the other with an area of 100.721 acres to be returned to DLNR. Approve the modification of general lease S3138 to reduce the lease area to 9.385 acres, reduce the rent proportionately from $18,300 per year to $1,600 per year, and correct the lease expiration date from December 31, 25 to December 31, 2024. Also delegate to the chair authority to negotiate and execute the lease modification documents, and finally to concur with the partial withdrawal of 100.721 acres from Governor's Executive Order number 4584 for reversion to DLNR. HL&L and Eurus Energy America LLC, who is the proponent for the proposed solar to hydrogen renewable energy project on the land to be returned to DLNR, have reached an agreement on the size and location of the two parcels to be created by the subdivision. HL&L is okay with the reduced size in part because the water restrictions for Campbell Industrial Park have been lifted and the 800 gallon per acre per day water allocation is moot. Staff is requesting an amendment to the recommendations in the submittal. We drafted the submittal to make final subdivision approval by the city a precondition to the modification of the lease and to the partial withdrawal of the land from the executive order. But Eurus explains the timeline for final subdivision approval could jeopardize the project. So after further discussion at DAB as well as with HL&L, staff is recommending the elimination of that precondition. The amendment proposes that the board strike the following language beginning at line 2 of recommendation 2 of the staff submittal, quote, contingent upon completion of the subdivision of TMK 191031001, end quote. And strike the following language beginning at line 3 of recommendation 4 of the submittal, quote, the completion of 1, the subdivision of TMK 19131-1 and 2. And authorize DAB to amend general lease number S3138 and concur with the withdrawal of 100.721 acres from Governor's Executive Order number 4584 prior to final subdivision approval. And so I'm going to read the recommendation with those amendments applied. Recommendation that the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity approve DLNR's Eurus's request to subdivide TMK 19131-1, including general lease number S3138 into two parcels consisting of 9.385 and 100.721 acres. 2, approve the modification of general lease number S3138 Hawaii Land and Livestock LLC to reflect a reduction in the area from 110.106 to 9.385 acres, a reduction of the annual rent payable under the lease from $18,300 to $1,600 per year until the first rental reopening under the lease, which is scheduled for January 1, 2030, and correction of the lease expiration date to December 31, 2054. Number 3, delegate to the chairperson the authority to negotiate and execute the lease modification documents to be recorded at the Bureau of Conveyances contingent upon completion of all of the above. And number 4, concur with the partial withdrawal of approximately 100.721 acres, more or less, from Governor's Executive Order number 4584 dated May 15, 2019 for reversion to DLNR contingent upon the modification to general lease number S3138. All related documents are subject to approval as to form by the Office of the Attorney General and such other terms and conditions as may be prescribed by the chairperson to best serve the interests of the state. Thank you.
Thank you, Kevin. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
Not yet. Aaron, I'm gonna let you talk. If you could please state your name and or organization.
Sure. Good morning, everyone. I'm Aaron Eddington on behalf of Hawaii Land and Livestock. Thank you for the opportunity to say a few words here. I know this parcel's been the subject of a lot of various hearings in the past, and I just want to express my gratitude to be able to be here in front of you virtually for the last time to offer my support for the actions that you are proposing to take today. And also just want to express my thanks to the chairs of both the BOA and the BLNR and other members of the respective boards and staff who have helped us and supported us through this long process. And also thank you to Yoris for helping us come to a negotiated solution. I appreciate also, there's been a lot of people involved, a lot of challenging issues. I think this is going to work well for us in our operation going forward in our endeavors to provide sustainable beef to the folks in Hawaii. We're happy to be a part of that and grateful for this compromise solution. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron. Any other comments from the public?
No other hands.
Anyone in the room wish to make comment? Nope.
I'm sorry, I just, you want to know if you have to read the motion. So great. Yeah, I think it'd be safer to do that.
All right, so,
Yeah.
oh, go ahead.
My name is Dave Tomlinson with Eurus Energy. And I, along with Aaron, have worked hard on this, and we appreciate, as Aaron said, very much appreciate Department of Agriculture and Department of DLNR's efforts on this project as well as everyone else. So thank you very much.
Thank you for your testimony. Board discussion. We have Jimmy.
This is for Aaron. Aaron, initially that was for the whole acreage, 117 acres, you got 9. What's your plans on the 9? Are you 9 acres that you're going to use? I know the water is the main focus, but it's 9 acres. What are you going to use that for? Are you going to, rotational grazing out of that? What do you have in mind?
It's mostly going to be cattle pens. Thank you for the question. We're going to expand our cattle pens a little closer and farther out. We have times where we have bad weather where we're not able to get cattle to move same day. So this should give us just enough room to be able to graze and run some cattle. We do have, a little bit of the shipping containers that we load and unload in that area. We'll use that space to do that as well as cattle come in off the other islands. But mostly be holding pens is our plan.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Recognizing N.
Morning, Sheriff. Thanks everybody for working on this. I know it's been a while. Just looking at this motion, it seems like there's a lot of parties involved, and I want to be comfortable voting on this. So can you guys kind of help me understand why we're going through this way? I mean, it seems like the final jurisdiction is going to be with DLNR for that 100 acres. I mean, so just looking at it, I don't understand why we wouldn't just kind of kick the land back to DLNR and skip a lot of this other stuff. And then just again, just to get me comfortable with removing the precondition of the city's approval Was that something we talked to the city about? I mean, I know we've been doing a lot of work on it, but it seems like we should have some assurances that, we're voting on something that's going to, it's going to move.
Understood. Thank you, member N. Kevin?
Okay, so the first part of that question, the short answer is we are returning most of the land to DLNR. HLNL needs to retain some for its own operations, but this is the statutory process we have to follow to remove land from an executive order that came from DLNR and return it to DLNR. So it's a little bit cumbersome, but it is a process we need to follow for taking land out of an executive order and taking it out of the lease. As far as talking to the city about subdivision approval, no, we did not have those conversations with the city. I think the general view is that the state kind of supersedes county jurisdiction on some of these things. And the ultimate goal is to complete subdivision approval anyway. It's just the timing in this case. It will happen after the lease amendment and after the withdrawal of the 100 acres from the current executive order. Yeah.
Okay, I mean, I understand it's tight. I don't know. I feel like there's a little bit of conflict between the first part where we're just following the process and the second part where we're shirking the process, So I guess, my last question to staff would be, right, in the presentation, the uses were to support to further the best interest of the state, as long as it doesn't get in the way of any kind of priorities that DAB had. So just to confirm, we don't have any designs on the property from the DAB side, and then can we just state for the public what the public purpose is?
Yeah, okay, DAB does not have any plans for the 100 acres. In fact, when it was a part of the lease, it was a management burden because of the occupation of the land by an unauthorized third party, which took a few years to resolve. And so it would actually be better for us to manage the smaller area that HLL needs. And so the lease character of use for HLNL won't change. Maybe yours or DLNR could speak better to the public purpose, but the public purpose of the withdrawal is to facilitate a renewable energy project to meet the state's clean energy goals.
So.
Thank you.
Thank you, and the hand, Mark, your hand is up.
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Similar to Member Young, I'm wondering if you haven't talked to the county about this subdivision, what happens if the subdivision is not approved?
Okay, so we've had that conversation with DLNR and including the possibility that the project doesn't go through for some reason and Eurus disappears from the scene. And DLNR has represented that they would see the subdivision through even if that happens. So we do have those representations from the department. I can't think of a reason that the city would not ultimately approve it if it was, the application was submitted and pursued through their processes.
Okay,
Clark,
thank you.
further question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Any other board discussion? Hearing none, seeing none,
So, Chair, you just wanted to.
I will. Wanted to restate the motion and mention that the motion has been amended. Item 4.2 was to remove the portion contingent upon subdivision of TMK S-1-031-004, as well as the amendment to 4.4 to remove contingent upon completion of subdivision of TMK 9-1-031-001 and 2, modification of general lease S-3138. So with those two amendments to this submittal, any recusals or objections? Because of the revision, we do have to do a roll call vote?
No,
No,
okay,
okay.
just make sure everyone, just make sure that that's okay for whoever made the motion.
Okay, Diane, Jimmy, is that okay with you to revise the submittal that way? Jimmy says thumbs up, Diane?
I don't see that here.
I think I was the second, I'm fine with the revisions.
Oh,
I think
right,
it's
right,
Ryan, it's
okay,
Ryan.
Ryan, you okay with that? Okay, thumbs up, so calling for the vote, any objections or recusals? Hearing none, seeing. nope.
Yeah, I think,
Yeah, it is,
yeah, I don't think I'm fully comfortable with this. I will know.
Wait, is he recusing or?
Are you recusing or objecting?
Objecting.
Oh, but you don't have, you can't pass it. Oh, no, Diane's back, okay. You gotta take roll call.
Okay, taking a roll call vote, thank you, Ann. There's been an objection, so roll call vote. Deputy Director Ryan Kanaka-Ole,
Yes.
Dr. Parwinder Grewal,
Yes.
Mark Takimoto,
Yes.
Diane Lay.
I'm sorry, Chair, I got bumped off of Zoom,
Okay,
so
so
I don't know
we're
what the
voting on-
discussion.
We're voting on this submittal, the request. With the two changes, with the two amendments to remove item 2 contingent upon subdivision of TMK 9-1-031-004, as well as voting on the removal of in item 4-4, contingent upon completion of the subdivision of TMK 9-1-031-001 and modification of general lease S-3138. Now, with those two revisions, the motion is being voted on.
Okay,
And,
aye.
okay, so calling on Diane Lay for vote.
Oh, aye.
Aye, thank you. Moving on to Ed Young, who's objected,
No.
and Jimmy,
Maka,
what does that mean?
He said that.
Oh, yes. Aye, and Sharon votes yes, so the motion is approved as amended. Okay. Thank you. Moving on to item 5. Thank you, Kevin. Request for submission of hearing officer's report and recommendation on chapter 4-159. HAR request for acceptance of minutes of the public hearing and request for adoption of the proposed rule, chapter 4-159, agricultural enterprise program rules, chapter 4-159, Hawaii administrative rules. May I have a motion to accept or to hear the presentation?
so move, Jimmy.
Thank you, Jimmy. And second,
Second, by Diane.
thank you, Diane, and presentation by staff.
Good morning, Brian Cowell, Agricultural Resource Management Division. This is our last submittal for the day, and it will be significantly easier than the last one that we just heard. I'm just going to summarize if you folks don't mind. The Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity Agricultural Resource Management Division is proposing to establish Chapter 4-159 HAR, the Agricultural Enterprise Program Rules. DAB works to create and maximize opportunities for exporting and facilities growth of existing and new agricultural commodities and value-added products. Act 221, Session Laws 2022 established the Agricultural Enterprise Program within the Hawaii Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity. This newly created program allows tenants to operate broader activities related to and supported of agriculture while under the management and control of DAB. Establishing the agricultural enterprise program with the presented administrative rules will clarify other related roles that support agriculture and provide our lessees opportunities to grow and expand their business models. There is no indication that customary and traditional Native Hawaiian rights on lands that may be reclassified as agricultural enterprise land under DAB's control and jurisdiction will be impacted. Therefore, DAB does not believe any customary and traditional Native Hawaiian rights will be impacted by the enactment of these rules. The Small Business Regulatory Review Board, which provides advisory comments to the governor on administrative rules that affect small businesses, met on October 16th, 2025, and recommended the proposed adoption of Chapter 4-159 HAR, Agricultural Enterprise Program Rules. The Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity gave preliminary approval to the assignment of a hearings officer and to proceed to public notice on May 27th, 2025. Following the governor's preliminary approval to proceed to public hearing on the adoption of Chapter 4-159, a public notice was published on June 27th, 2025 in the Honolulu Star Advertiser, the Garden Island, Hawaii Tribune Herald, and West Hawaii Today and the Maui News for statewide circulation. The public notice was also posted on the department's website. The notice of public hearing stated that the Department of Agriculture and Biosecurity would accept written testimony on the adoption of Chapter 4-159 until August 6, 2025. The public hearing was held on July 30th, 2025 at 1849 Awiki Street from 1 to 3 p.m. During the public commenting period, there were no oral or written testimonies provided. Pursuant to Section 4-1-28 HAR, I am filing the hearing officer's report on the above reference adoption of Chapter 4-159 HAR, Agricultural Enterprise Rules. The public hearing officer recommended adoption of the proposed chapter as presented at the public hearing. Staff recommends that the Board of Agriculture and Biosecurity, 1, accepts the official hearing officer's report, 2, accepts the minutes of the public hearing for the Agricultural Enterprise Program Rules, and 3, adopts the proposed rule, Chapter 4-159 Agricultural Enterprise Program Rules, as Chapter 4-159 HAR.
Thank you, Brian. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
No.
No hand. Board discussion. Go ahead, Mark.
Thank you, Chair. Thank you, Brian. Is this program, does this apply to all current tenants, all lessees?
No, it's a separate program. It's a third land program that the division has stood up. So the first being the Ag Park program, the second being the non-Ag Park program, and this would be our third program that allows for essentially everything that an agricultural business would want to do, minus the recommendation to produce on the land, whether it be an animal or a plant.
This sounds great. I was just hoping that some of the current tenants might be able to take advantage in some way. It looks like a real good opportunity as the industry changes. And I was just hoping that it would be something that could be expanded onto current, maybe they can apply or something. I'm not sure how that would work. If it has to be in a certain area. But no, thank you. I was wondering, I was hoping that it could be applied to everyone. Thank you.
Oh, forgive me for misunderstanding the question.
Yeah.
I would like to clarify that we are actively reviewing our current tenant roles for both the agricultural park and the non-agricultural park program
Okay.
for lessees that may benefit from transitioning in or to transition into this program. So there is by no means a exclusion of current lessees.
Okay, thank you very much. That's very good to hear. Thank you.
Thank you. Any further questions from the board? No further board discussion, no hands. Okay, any objections or recusals? Hearing none, seeing none, motion is approved unanimously. Thank you, Brian.
Thank you, board.
Moving on to old business, for which there is none. New business. Item 6.1, proposed requirements and procedures for the submission of biosecurity and pest management plans pursuant to Act 236, Session Laws of Hawaii 2025 relating to biosecurity. Presentation by Stephanie.
Yeah, good morning, Chair, board members. My name is Jonathan Ho. I am the plant quarantine branch manager. Yeah, so as Chair said, this submittal is going to be about proposed requirements and procedures for the submission of biosecurity and pest management plans pursuant to Act 236 SLH 2025. So during the real quick background, during the 2025 legislative session, 236 did a number of things, and ultimately one of the things is they created a new section regarding the submission and approval of biosecurity and pest management plans. This section enables anyone to submit to the board biosecurity plans with the 10 things listed below. Very general information. And it requires that the board take into consideration, whether it would be effective or eradicate. Is there going to be impacts or inconsistencies with existing requirements? And, benefits outweighing costs. Any other consideration by the department, and then it requires that the board approve or deny or modify plans at a public hearing. And then publish each of the plans it approves or approves with modifications to the department's website. And ultimately, for the branch, the biggest issue with this request is that the submission requirements are very broad, and it would require the board to take up very broad plans and review them with essentially no review by staff prior to you folks going over them. And what we're proposing is that we create rules that would enable the branch to do something similar to what we do for import permit conditions that the board currently reviews, where there's, maybe not the same level of review where you have subcommittee, advisory committee, and board review, but something similar, which would enable the department or the branch to vet a lot of the requests in line with the requirements prior to providing them before the board for review. And so currently, as we do it now with the board submittals for permits, we work with applicants quite heavily prior to getting them through the review process before the board gets them. And, and I think as the board sees, a lot of the submissions have quite a bit of information. And we believe that, when you're doing, establishing something for a pest or you're allowing importation, these things require a lot of information for the board to consider before, making these rulings and again, potentially requiring or investing a lot of time and effort and resources that the department may or may not have. So we believe that creating some rules similar to what we have in 471 and to manage this process prior to moving forward with a lot of it. And ultimately, our belief is that doing that is gonna be, I think, best for, I think the board. And I think best for the branch, and I think especially with our limited resources, to try to, manage these processes at board meetings, creating submittals. Having you folks have questions and then we have to answer them and come back before the board is just way too cumbersome, and there's no real way to require that without rules. So ultimately, what we're gonna be doing is we'll be making a set of rules to kind of explain that process and then bring it back before you folks for approval. Unless there is something that the board would like to see different from what we essentially do for the import permit board submittal process. That's basically it.
Thank you, Jonathan. Does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
No.
No hands. Board discussion? No. Okay, Diane.
Thank you, Chair. Jonathan, maybe you can clarify for me, does a public hearing, is that the same as a board meeting?
Yeah, so we did have quite a bit of discussion about that, and I think the board meeting would be what we would do it at, because obviously, a public hearing requires a bunch of different things regarding notice and all that, and I think clearly that's not the intent. And yeah, so that's why we're looking at doing this through the rules. And I think to the extent of clarifying it, it could be something for legislative change. But I think clearly that wasn't the intent, because having the entire board go to a public hearing and you lack a lot of the protections or for discussion and executive sessions and things like that. So yeah, we're looking at the intent is to be done before the board in a meeting similar to this one.
Okay, thank you. And I appreciate the concept behind staff doing some review prior to and because I've served on the board long enough to have seen the process before PQ did their review with the applicants and fine-tuned. It helps the department better understand the proposal as well as vet it and it just overall better protects the state and our resources. But the next question I have is, would these proposed rules also, well, let me back up a second. The department's budget is basically delegated by the board to the chair to manage, is my understanding of, maybe that language is not quite right, but did the legislature desire, or would the rules specify that that the board would how would the rules address the budgeting for this? I mean, I'm assuming there is a separate line item budgeted for these biosecurity and pest management plans. And would the board be receiving these plan requests piecemeal, or would there be an annual or biannual request for proposals so that they could be vetted by the board and weighed, against, if you will, not against each other, but the merits of each, and figure out how to budget for them? Or is it just going to be first come, first serve? So I don't know if you folks have explored that, but it might be worthwhile.
That is a good question, because again, right, it does talk about proposed funding and funding sources. So like, for example, like if our budget is completely tapped, the board could get a request and there's no money for it. And I think this goes back to, I think, the way that it's written. So a lot of the plans are designed for, what's the specific term? For biosecurity and pest management plans. So biosecurity and management is a component of biosecurity. So it's conceivable, that because this is so broad, the board could designate, so somebody could designate or bring in a plan and they want to do control, but there could be like, for example, a movement requirement, and the board could adopt just the movement requirement and not the control requirement, because movement could be factored into our existing work, right? And I think that's where the funding component, I think particularly for the management portion, is gonna be, I think, one of the more I think unusual parts on how do we do it. And I think we haven't worked with the chair, I think, on designating a pot of funding that could be allocated specifically for this particular project. And, you know, but it makes a lot of sense, I think, to the extent of what you're suggesting, because that may be one way to help kind of manage the rulemaking. And but that's not something that I've or Chair and I have discussed.
Diane, that is a really, really good line of questioning. Go ahead. Did you have further?
No, I just, just seemed like it was a puka that it's gonna cause, cause consternation later on if we haven't addressed it formally, in some fashion. And I'm fine with, well, anyway, yeah, we'll see what you come back with.
So,
But otherwise,
Jonathan,
I'm supportive of the proposal as it stands, to, draft these rules. So, thank you.
Thank you, Diane. Jonathan, because you are the subject matter expert on this particular portion of Act 236, could you run us through the board, run the board and myself through the process? If a member of the community has identified a pest that is not currently recognized as a pest, and they would like to see the board determine whether or not it should be on the list of pests, could you run through the process so the public is aware of what this process might be?
Yeah, so pest, so I guess pest has two uses as it relates to the department. So you have pests generally, which in 150A, which is an organism in any stage of development that's potentially or the detrimental or potentially detrimental agriculture, human health, environment, as determined by the board. And then you have pests for control and eradication, which is in 141 141.3, anyway, but well, maybe proper entry, but anyway, so the department has a set of so PQ has a set, and then there's a departmental set which enables rules, so which is 4-69A HAR, which are the list of pests that are designated for control and eradication by the department. That section requires that the department do this practically, or what is reasonably practicable, free of charge to individuals. So there's kind of two different versions, and generally the way we've dealt with pests from 150 is we make rules. So we regulate the hosts to prevent the entry of the pests. We don't necessarily have a list per se. And I think this is kind of trying to create something more akin to like a general list, but how it's going to be managed is, I think that's where it's going to be a little funky. And so generally, like for us, what would be a good one? There's a cacao borer. I'm just using as an example. Cacao is an emerging industry. So what we're going to do is we're going to regulate cacao to prevent the entry of the cacao borer, which is the pest, from entering the state. So that's generally how we do that designation. And then you could then create an existing or another regulation for inter-island movement to prevent the inter-island movement of cacao, to prevent the spread of that borer.
So a member of the public or community or industry
Can
does the 10 steps. If
Yes.
there's something with the 10
Yes.
steps and submits it to
the board.
for consideration.
Yeah.
But what you're saying is before that's brought up to the board, the Department of Agriculture Biosecurity staff, the Q, is going to look at that submittal.
Right.
And you're going to be sure that it's suitable to be brought for the board.
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is, I think, the criteria. So for example, I think a good example would be somebody is going to list cockroaches, for example, as a pest, right? They meet the legal definition, right? Are they detrimental? Do they cause damage? Yada, 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 right? So the board conceivably could designate them as a pest and we could create regulation for it. But to the extent of like the cost and what it would protect, clearly, it wouldn't really move the needle anywhere to create a regulation to manage movement, right? And I think the intent is to kind of get this to a place where you're gonna be approving plans that are gonna be likely to actually do something as it relates to either spread or establishment or eradication. And I think maybe that's not the greatest example, but I think, you know, that you know, like tropical fire ant, right? I mean, we can go down the list. And I think that's kind of more the intent of, I think where I think that this is gonna go is to kind of, like you said, get the public or give the public the ability to go through this plan. And then, you know, and a lot of times people don't realize, you know, what it is. And, you know, like they're doing species A, and then, hey, you know what, FYI, you know, it's been in the state for 100 years. It's on every island. It's not just affecting you. Boom, boom, boom. Oh, and as opposed to doing it before the board. Like that's not a good use of your time, right? We can address that, but the way this is set up now, they submit it, we're gonna have to do it before the board and have to.
So that was pretty much, thank you, John, and then I wanted the public to know the process and that the submittal should have some data-driven science behind
Oh,
it.
absolutely, yes.
And that would be, and a budget, which is required in the,
Yeah,
in the 10 steps. So that it makes it more of a vetting process so that the
Yes.
board is prepared to vote on something that is reasonable,
yes,
measurable, realistic.
Yep.
Yeah, okay, that's the point.
And Chair, I think that's what they're gonna put in the rules.
Okay, yeah.
So that the average public member is going to know
Right.
what's needed.
yeah,
And it's gonna come back to the board so that you guys can approve of the rules and say, okay, I'm comfortable with this being the thing, or I wanna add something.
Yeah.
Or take this.
Thank you. So with that, does anyone from the public wish to give testimonies? Oh, we did that. Any further board discussion? Okay, oh, Diane, go
I
ahead.
just have one more question. Did we ever make a motion?
Oh, no, we don't need a motion.
This
was
is new business.
Oh, I see. Okay, all right, great.
The vote that we're calling for, no vote.
No, I think it was more to update the
Yeah.
board, and if the board had concerns, then the board could make a motion to
Yeah.
direct them differently or to add more things. But it's just more about-
Non-action item.
Thank you.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you
It
for
was to
clarifying.
Diane and board members, it was to prepare the board for what is coming. That you would be reviewing these applications to designate a pest and the process that would be going through before you see that application. Okay,
Thank you,
so
Chair.
thank you, moving on to item 2, invasive species action plan update.
okay, yeah, so, real quick, you know, I'll do my reminder. You know, again, the agenda item is broad, presentation to provide you folks, the board with, a brief update on some just biosecurity tasks. And, you know, unfortunately, because of the broadness, you know, we can't do a lot of discussion. And, if the board has something it would like to, have presented, specifically to let us know, and then we can make sure to bring that up before the next board meeting. So just a couple of quick things. Speaking to staff, and last week we conducted a treatment for Trichomyrmex near Mayeri. So it's an ant species, which is NKO, so it's not known to occur in the state. The ant was actually detected in November 2023 by the White Ant Lab and referred to the department. So plant quarantine has been conducting treatments at Pier 1 for this this ant. It's I guess it's considered like a tramp ant. So it kind of gets in everything. It likes to move around. And it's kind of spread quite a bit throughout Asia. I think it's from the Middle East, I believe. But anyway, ants are terrible. We don't need more of them. So we've been working with DOT to treat that area. And I think last week was our 4th treatment. We've been doing surveys along with the treatments, and the infestation levels are getting smaller and smaller and smaller, which is good. You know, hopefully this will be one of those marks in the good column. We eradicated something, and you know, it kind of shows the work that we do with the partners to accomplish the shared mission. Real quick about some rapid responses. Last week, is it last week already? On the 21st, I think you guys might saw the press release. There were 2 opossums that were captured at the harbor in Honolulu. Basically one on each side of the, one on both sides of the harbor. First one was real early in the morning, and staff were notified. They saw it the night before. Staff were deployed, were able to capture it in about 2 hours. They were able to kind of get it underneath the container, captured in 2 hours. Right, basically when they came back to the office, the other transportation carrier let us know that they had captured another opossum. So we went and picked those up. Both of those animals have been sent out for rabies testing. And we didn't report on this, but at the last meeting, but there was another opossum also caught in Hilo in September. Same thing, they saw it running around on one of the jetties. Staff were able to go and capture it. That one was also sent out for rabies testing. It was deemed negative. And opossums have been kind of a big thing. We've had another 4 since July of 2024. We caught another one in Kona in January. We caught one right down the road over here in December. One in Kalihi in August, and then one in downtown in July. So you know, these guys have been hitchhiking quite a bit. A little bit about recruitment. We did talk about previously about the rapid recruitment job fair. So plant quarantine, we were able to fill two positions on Oahu and get another 389-day hires. And then we were also able to get another inspector separately for Maui. We have a GIS specialist that's going to be in the division. We did the recruitment with the start date of November 3rd, which will be greatly helpful for managing, you know, I think the pest dashboard that's going to be up in December. The plant pest control branch hired their chemical mechanical section chief. So he used to be the noxious weed specialist in Hilo. It's Cameron Fujimoto. So he's just started, hit the ground running, and his vacant position is also up for recruitment. Interviews were conducted for the pesticide branch manager after the incumbent left TOH. So that hopefully there will be a pesticides branch manager soon. The plant quarantine branch's nursery specialist interviews were conducted 2 weeks ago, so we're hoping that that's going to get finalized. And we're also having upcoming interviews for our plant specialist, land vertebrate specialist, insect specialist, and then the 2 port supervisors on Oahu, one for airport and maritime. CRB in Kona, there was recently a breeding site found in Makale, so it's just outside, a little bit more, what is that, more east, I guess, of the initial infestations. It's in a gated community, and staff are basically canvassing the properties door to door. I think they're going out today, knocking on doors, getting access to properties, trying to identify breeding sites. Department has done an IFB for treatments for $100,000 for each county, so that we're able to use a fumigator to start treating a lot of these sites. We've issued letters to the what is it called? The homeowners association, and then we're going to be branching out to more folks on that island to make sure that they're well aware of what needs to be done and what they can do to ensure that CRB doesn't get into their communities. And then the last thing is some division staff. So myself, Kent Dumlau, Chris Kishimoto, and then Esther Reichert, the acting pesticide branch manager. We went to COSDA, so that's the Communication Officers of State Department of Agriculture's meeting. Last week we returned, I remember the dates already, but that meeting is for basically the PIOs of each of the states to kind of, to gather together and, kind of, deal with issues, learn about things that they can do for communication, what works well in their states and what doesn't work. For us, we're not PIO people. We're more like, I would say, like subject matter experts, or like to some extent, quote unquote, I guess, spokespeople. It was good to work directly with, I think, people who are pure communication officers, and to see a lot of the things that they do that we don't necessarily do, and try to figure out ways to implement a lot of that stuff back in the state. Most of the folks that we did meet are, I would say, there weren't really any West Coast folks. It was basically kind of central, east. So folks that we don't generally work too much with. And a lot of that networking is very good because a lot of times we don't necessarily know our counterparts in pesticide or plant quarantine or in pesticides. And these communication folks clearly know everyone in their organization. So if there's issues, there's a lot more efficient way to kind of figure out who we need to talk to without having to try to chase folks down if we don't necessarily know who those contacts are. But yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. We have a hand up. Jimmy Gomes.
Yes, Jonathan,
Oh,
this is for Jonathan.
Jimmy, I'm sorry.
The way that the agenda item is written is very general. So.
We had this
can't ask-
conversation before,
I know.
and we're
So
gonna
if
try
you
to change
contact-
it. Jonathan, get a hold of me.
Yeah,
So
I will.
I can contact you directly, individually.
Thank you. My
Sorry.
fault.
No.
I should not have called that.
No,
Thank you,
okay.
Jonathan.
No, I'll give Jimmy a call. Not a problem.
Does anyone, can I go with the public?
The public cast, yeah. The public.
Public has, okay, does anyone from the public wish to give testimony?
No.
No hands, okay. Thank you, Jonathan. Moving on to item 6.3, discussion and decision-making on imposing a time limit for public testimony.
Okay, so this was necessitated because we, the Office of Information Practices, I can look at that. They require, something in writing, from the boards in order to, put a time restriction on public testimony. One of the things they do allow, is if it's reflected in minutes, for example. So right now, I think because of, there was a complaint by somebody about us trying to show the writing that we had for establishing the time limit, and then we found that there wasn't any. So, we can always request an individual limit their testimony to whatever amount of time you want to, but there's no way to enforce it unless the board takes an action to do so, and then we'll put it in writing by having it in the minutes. And then OIP has found that that's adequate. So the purpose of this agenda item was to allow the board to set a time limit on testimony for each agenda item. And we did not put one on the agenda, so it would allow the board to decide what amount, if you wanted to stick to the 2 minutes we request right now, or if you want to, make it more, or, vary it, like if it's a huge agenda item, that they can bring it to a minute. I mean, whatever the board wants to do. I just spitballing.
So there's a OIP recommendation that we put in writing and officially state a time limit, so the public is aware, and we can enforce the time limit should the board decide to put one on there. So I'm asking for comment on whether or not we should have a time limit on testimony, and if you agree that there should be or not, what should that time limit be? Yeah. Good, Diane.
Chair, do you want to ask the public for comments on this?
I guess so, we could do that before.
Maybe do that before we have discussion, board discussion.
Thank you, Diane. Does the public wish to give testimony? No, no hands. Go ahead, Diane.
Okay, thank you. Well, yeah, I think I feel comfortable supporting a time limit, and I would say a minimum of 2 minutes and a maximum of 3 if, the board wants to extend the time frame. Generally, if people have noticed ahead of time, they can be succinct, particularly if it's a big item that many people are testifying on. I think that that is helpful to synthesize. And also, I think the board also would have the authority to, ask more questions of a testifier if, more details were needed, so.
I think the questions of the board can be falling under board discussion. So if it's somebody just testifying, that's their speech part's gonna be limited to their testimony, but like if you call them up after with a question and they're answering
Right.
you. That
Yeah.
isn't like, oh, wait a minute, you got back for 2 minutes, so you can't answer the question.
Right. That's what, I guess that's why I'm thinking that, if there's something
Oh, I
that
see.
sparks the board interest, yeah, they can dive deeper with
Oh,
testifier.
And they can.
I understand. I'm really sorry. I think I misunderstood.
Okay,
That's true.
you want to restate that? So,
No, so I think what you were saying, I agree with what you're saying, yeah, so there are ways for you to allow someone to testify, to provide more information. Cause you can go to the board discussion.
we call
Exactly.
that
Thank
testifier
you.
back up.
Yeah, I agree that you're correct.
Okay, any other board discussion? All right, so moving on to the final item, which is,
Wait, so do you wanna do it?
oh yeah,
Because
that's
right now you don't have one,
yeah, so,
and so. It seems like you're saying you want it to be maybe 2 minutes, and at most, if someone wants it to be more, 3 minutes is kind of where you would. stop.
Yeah, that's where I feel like, people can be succinct and,
So it's gonna be up to the board.
okay, so it's up to the board to adopt in writing for the minutes.
No, just adopt. So someone needs to make a motion, but you guys need to decide on the time.
Okay,
Right now, it's 2, I think. I
Yeah.
think it's 2 right now. So you just
well,
wanna go.
if folks are silent on it, I'll make a motion to set a 2-minute time limit.
okay,
Okay,
do we need a second?
yes.
Okay, second,
I second it.
thank you, Dean Fairwell. It has been moved and seconded that the time limit for public testimony be 2 minutes. Any discussion? Public? None? Board discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Any recusals or objections? Again, hearing or seeing none. The motion is unanimously approved. Thank you. Okay, that was a big piece of business we had to get through. Appreciate the discussion. And we're moving on to item 7, which is adjournment. May I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved, Ryan.
Oh,
Thank you,
Second.
Ryan and Diane. Is the second board discussion? Hearing, seeing none. Any objections or recusals?
I don't think so.
Okay, so we are now adjourned and, ooh, I hit my phone. I got it again. It is 10:24. Meeting is adjourned and the date of the next meeting is Tuesday, November 25th at 9 AM. I guess Marcy will be sending out a notice if that needs to be changed. Okay, thank you, everybody. See you next time. Bye.
Bye.